This podcast is the journey of two card game designers climbing the huge mountain of game dev together. Come join us on the adventure. Welcome to DevUp. Hello, welcome back. We're on episode 3 of DevUp, the podcast where we have two peeps who are doing some game design with card games, climbing up the seemingly never-ending mountain of game development, trying to reach the top, sharing our stories, our adventures going up this mountain, helping each other climb up, which is very fun. And I'm joined by my very good co-host and climber buddy, Dan. Yo, what's up, Daniel? How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. Man, it's been a crazy week of climbing this mountain. Lots of ups and downs, but yeah, I'm hanging in there, man, and it's going well overall.
Okay, I'm keen to dig in. Before we started recording, we were we can't help ourselves. We're already diving into updates
yeah.
and talking over stuff. It's so natural when we chat. We just dive in and start going at it. But you have some big news on your projects. I'm super curious to hear about your updates. I can share some updates for me, and then I feel like going into today we can talk about UI, and you were talking about players' attention and sort of visually where to direct people. I think this is a really cool topic. I'm excited to kind of talk through some different parts.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
gonna be fun. I do have a big announcement. It's gonna be pretty big. I'm gonna be changing the name from for my game from Chilijack to Spicy Showdown. And if you are hearing about my game's name for the first time in the show, this doesn't matter to you at all. But yeah, it's a name that I've been sticking with for the past year, 9 months or something like that. I've been working with name Chilijack. Before it was Spice Jack, but I really tried to have the name Jack in there because my game is very derivative of a common game called blackjack. And the reason why I changed it was because I think that the name of your game needs to be narrative first. It needs to tell what the game is about as a theme, and what the story of the world is and things like that. And the previous name Chilijack just didn't really do that for my game. A lot of people were confusing the word chili with the stew, the beans and stuff, and also maybe pepper jack, cheese. So Spicy Showdown, it's a little bit more mouthful to say, but it does a better job at explaining the narrative of a game, and overall really fun, casual, spicy competition that you are participating in. So yeah, I decided to go with that name. I'm very happy about it, and all the playtesters happy, and so yeah, we're just gonna start doing marketing and all that stuff with this name. But yeah, other than that, I've been reworking a lot of cards, focusing on better, simpler but more fun designs. I have a rule book that I'm really happy with as a first draft, but over time I'm gonna polish it more and get a lot more feedback. And yeah, overall just a really fun week of playtesting and balancing the cards and changing what cards are going to be in the base set when it releases, all that stuff. So would be happy to go more into it later. I'd also love to hear more update about Divine Engage and where you're at. And yeah, how's everything going so far?
Okay. I mean, first off, for people listening, I've been following Chilijack for quite a while, and when Dan brought this news to me, I was I didn't know how to feel. I was wait a minute, the name change is crazy. It's oh my gosh. I was wait, but as I'm saying it in my brain, I'm Spicy Showdown. It's I think that's so much cooler. I like it. I like the showdown. I think showdown, it's it feels very to the game. It's very cool. It's we're gonna show down, throw our chilies out. This is great. So I like that the flavor of the game is still very present with the name. Chilijack was very iconic, but I think that's just because the game was. So I'm liking the direction. I think that's cool. Yeah. Speaking of, the name for DE it's so interesting because I don't know, like I landed on Divine Engage like day one. It was like it's like there. I went through a couple names, but it was so quick. It was like it's just been around forever. So I'm like wait,
how did you land on Divine Engage? Like why the word engage? I'm curious.
Well, we sort of talked about in episode 1, and if you're coming into the podcast, episode 2, definitely go check out the first episode where we talk about the 2-year journey diving into these projects, because we go way more in depth into how we got started. But coming into Divine Engage, it was like that tactics game, right? And so I had these kind of like units engage like in that combat sense. So I wanted something that had that like synonym for like combat and other things like this. Like ironically, I probably did a terrible job naming my game. Because it was like ultimately I pivoted into the card game, and then it's like this unrelated thing. But thankfully, like part of the big part of the game are the divines, these like divine beings and stuff. And it was like when the game first started, you kind of had this win condition of collecting the runes. We remember back to like the original sort of games, way before you would like clash and damage and stuff. And I think it's just interesting where the game has got to, where you're now like clashing with these divines, and so like Divine Engage, you're engaging with your divines and stuff. It kind of like works, but day one it's just like I just landed on that for the where the tactics game started. So
that's crazy. It's like the name kind of came back and actually inspired the mechanics to be focused around the divines, when at first it used to not be like that. Yeah. I remember when the game was in like an earlier state, giving you one of the feedbacks, like if the game is called Divine Engage, but we're not really engaging with their divines enough, so you kind of turned it around and started making more focus on the divines. I think that was really cool. That's when the game started like feeling more like, oh, I could select my divine and like he has these abilities and I'm gonna try to build my deck around it. It just felt really intuitive to me there. So yeah, the name is great, I think.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. And I guess into recently, something I sort of launched in, which is some exciting news, is the base set for DE is going to be done this month. Oh god.
Oh my god. What?
Yo, that's why. Yeah, so I'm setting
an announcement.
Yeah, so base set is coming. It's coming to Tabletop Simulator first. So if you want a chance to playtest the base set for DE, then come into the tavern, and we are going to host up some stuff. It's going to have 54 follower cards. Follower cards are these like main cards here you play with. They're the followers of the divine. The base set's going to
look great, by the way. They look fantastic.
Yes, Fish has been doing amazing. Community member Umi, who also does some board game design themselves, sketched up Jelly Shroom here, so big shout outs to them for the sketch. But yes, we're going to have the follower cards. They're going to feature the 3 different factions, which are balance, power, and progress. You can kind of see here the symbol is for balance. You've got the kind of mask here for power, it's a bit evil, and progress is a gear icon. And so when you build your divines, and deck building in the game revolves around these factions and what factions do your followers belong to. So yeah, and in the set we're going to have 4 divines, the base sort of 3, Locke, Zephyr and Venna, these primordial titans, and also a really interesting kind of wild card is going to be the mirror, this sort of really awesome celestial of like these spirit realm, and kind of like gives power to these followers, and her gimmick is that she has all of the factions, all 3 of these factions as her sort of set. So if you play with Mirror, you can actually build with all of the cards in your deck.
That's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be the base set, Elemental Titans. I sort of saw that with card games, people love to put sort of deck labels. Like I see this Pokemon and stuff, and you have these kind of like set names and other stuff. So I kind of went with something like this, Elemental Titans. So maybe people can drop in some feedback. What do we think?
I think it's a very strong base set. Yeah, I love the design of the 3 primordial divines, and then this 4th one that has this kind of tie that allows people to really build anything they want to. Like having that as part of your base set is great, because they could try out each of those divines, and they could also challenge themselves to be like, what if I have access to the whole deck, like the whole set, and just build whatever I want to do? I think that's awesome. Yeah. I think Mura is actually my main. Yeah, I'm gonna probably main her.
Yeah, there'll be some interesting things. Because in Divine Engage, when you build decks, they're only 15 cards big. So compared to normal TCGs, this is really small. And I have really played around with this number in a lot of versions of the game. And I've tried to go really small. I remember, Dan, when we tested out 9 cards.
Yes, 9 cards.
And went, oh man, that's way too small. Tested up to 20. 20 felt pretty cool, but it was sort of that thing of like, I wonder what we can do around here. And 15 has always just felt like really strong. Yes. Because the game features 3 elements that you kind of play rock, paper, scissors with. You can just build 5 easy cards per element, and that's like a really great format to kind of stick with in terms of deck building. So yeah, with these 54 cards, there's quite the number of like combinations and different decks you can build with. So I'm really intrigued and I'm really excited. And so over this kind of week, I've been toying around, and I'm really excited to talk more about UI generally. But with the updates to the game, I've been taking a bit of a stab and look at some of the UI of the card abilities, trying to like really nail down the main sort of action area of the cards. A recent change that I've been doing is trying to put the cost of the ability inside this small little box. Previously, I just had it floating like this. So you'd have sort of the number 2 next to this icon. And I don't know, I was just looking at everything and it didn't feel like it really had the structure. You have to try and figure out what things are. So I just put this really simple box underneath the cost to just house it into a little box like this to try and separate it a bit more from the main text, so you can kind of read it. What are your thoughts, Dan? Taking a look at the Draco card here.
Yeah, I really like the that the resource is in its like own separate box, because it doesn't kind of bleed into the abilities text, and it helps me immediately guide my attention to look at that first. It stands out, and I think that's the point of the UI is if you want certain elements to stand out, you need to do some kind of treatment to it, and in this case, having a box like that, and also just being the top thing in the box helps you read from top to bottom, unless you're from like a weird culture where you read from like up to like from bottom to top. Like most people are gonna process information from top to bottom, so having that box there on the top helps. And I know we have kind of tried to do it differently on the Jelly Shroom here with the positioning of that UI box there, the resource cost to be on the top left. I think this works as well.
Yeah, it's like I wonder, like, does this feel really small just because it's compared to the ability text?
Well, we could kind of compare our cards with other cards with other like flavor text and stuff. So for example, this is Magic the Gathering, and their flavor text is actually just italicized, same size card.
Yeah,
right?
interesting.
What are like? I don't know if Pokemon has flavor text, but is there like a modern TCG game that you could think of that has
That
story
has,
on it?
That has
Maybe
some, like, flavor.
Yeah, what's that one game where you're okay? I mean, Lorcana is another one where they might have flavor text here and there, and yeah, Lorcana is the same thing with Magic the Gathering, where they have the same sized flavor text, but they do have this line in between on top of. Yes, that's the game I was talking about. Altered, yes. See how Lorcana has...
Yeah, there's like a degree of separation, right?
Yeah.
Like, and even with Magic, there's not, but it's italicized. And so it's the only italicized text on there. So it's very different immediately.
So it seems like modern, these two are more modern than Magic. Magic hasn't been doing it for a while. That's why they just like are sticking with that. But I think it does help to differentiate the core game play elements and flavor text with like a certain line.
That's very true.
In between.
Yeah.
Just tries to make it a little bit clean, so when you're actually trying to play the game and you don't have to read past that line, thinking that you need to read it in order to understand what the card does. So that's like another UI lesson, I guess. There, I've been subconsciously doing it without really realizing it. I think maybe I just saw it happen with Lorcana, but I've been putting this like kind of a transparent line in between ability text, and my flavor text is a little bit smaller too. But I do have an internal rule saying I can't have the flavor text be longer than 2 lines. Whereas abilities, I try to make it within 4 or 5 lines as much as I can. Flavor.
I mean, it's really interesting. I guess like an interesting design approach that I took to some of the redesign to the abilities with DE here is like very quick and punchy. Like make everything really, really short. And blow up the ability text to be like really big on the card. Which kind of like goes against what is typical, I guess. Like when you look at Chilijack compared to these TCGs, it's like everything is very written. Where I guess like with the DE stuff here, it's very like it's quite headery in terms of its text.
It reads pretty well, but one of the things that I actually tried to experiment with Chilijack pretty like early in its development. I'm gonna try to pull up maybe one of the cards that I designed a long time ago with. So you see this Chili Slime here. This was a pretty early one where you can see that the heat cost, well, not cost, but how much heat it gives is actually on the top right. So this is a pretty old version of it, and the text had like thick strokes of black text on it as well. So I thought this would help make the ability be pretty easy to read against like a darker background, and no matter what the color the background is or keywords are highlighted, it's gonna be easy to read it. And I printed it out and started testing it. And even I'll show you this older but more updated version Chili Dragon. After that, I kept some of the stroke for keywords like this when grilled and trash. But when I tested with this in real life and I printed it out, it actually felt very cartoony almost, and it didn't really feel like a TCG. So I eventually ended up getting rid of the black text. But actually the biggest reason why I remember is when you have so much contrast between each letter of your words. So if you look at this keyword of Chili Slime here, I'm gonna just highlight remove, and show it here, right? We're going from, if I could kind of draw this, okay, that's not how it works, but yeah, looking from like the first letter R, we're going from white to black to white to black to white, black, white, black, white, black. There's just like a constant switch of back and forth that actually makes it really hard to read to some degree, where it's like so much noise visually is happening that it's not really readable at a first glance. And then colors of your keywords can like help do that, but if you have just regular text, it doesn't need to be like blown out like as a 200% pay attention to me kind of a thing. You know, like I think it's because everything feels so highlighted. Nothing felt highlighted, and it was really hard to read the keywords and abilities. So the version that I ended up with, which is where I am now, is everything is just kind of like slightly off black. I didn't make it completely black. Maybe I should have. It's usually a very common thing for text in card games to have either fully white colored text or fully black colored text. I decided to go with, you know, like slightly off black/brown to make it a little bit easier to read it. And then all the keywords are just colored differently. But yeah, I don't know. You kind of have to really try printing out your cards and see what it looks like and get feedback from your players on like, is this readable? Is this easy to read?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very challenging.
It is quite the challenge. Like I think like there's a testament to like effort to learn a game, I think, as well. I think a lot of people probably tend to fill in gaps in their brain, like
that's true,
with just like learning. I think it's really interesting. I guess like what I thought for DE, and it kind of is an interesting design of, I guess, when people look at UI, like I wonder, when you look at a bunch of text on a card, my one thought, like, is that, do you think that's problematic? Like in terms of people that, you know, will this like scare people off kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, I look at a card like Conflux up here for Magic the Gathering, and if I'm not already invested into Magic the Gathering, I probably would feel a little bit scared off by it because I mean, I see cool colors. That's probably what's gonna first draw me to looking at this card, is the art. Looks like there's these 5 kind of different manas just floating around. There's a giant hand. Oh, I wonder what this card is about. And I think as a card game player and a designer, I find it really interesting to like read the ability and sort of like try to understand why the designers made it like this with the art that it has and the cost, and sort of, you know, just try to see if the ability works. And sometimes abilities that are so wordy like this one, it has to have 5 or 6 like lines of words in order to convey the game's intention and what it's supposed to do. And that's okay, because Magic is meant to be this kind of complex game where you have a lot of depth and replayability, and it's like not trying to be a game that's like easy to play, but there's also cards in the game that are just deal 2 damage or deal 5 damage. So they do have different archetypes and different cards for various different amount of players to like and onboard them. And sometimes your cards just don't need to have that many texts either. In general, I think if you can try to like help it, you want to remove any fat as much as possible. You want to trim the fat, just leave all the necessary keywords, and like whatever you don't need, you should be cutting away. But if your card absolutely cannot work without having that many words, I do think that you need to kind of sacrifice some of it and allow for that room. But ultimately, whatever is fun is the most important thing. And then second is this like accessible to players, right? And I think in the reasoning of like, it's a good balance. I really think it's a good balance. You want to make your game be accessible to new people and draw them in, but at the same time, if the card is not fun to play with, then and it feels like shallow, it feels like there needs to be another layer of fun like injected into it, then it might be worth the sacrifice of another line of ability text. I don't know, what's your thoughts on kind of accessibility and like how wordy a card is supposed to be? What do you think of when you look at this card Conflux over here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's super true. Like if I were to look at this type of thing, and it's like a great example is getting into the game Flesh and Blood for the first time, a TCG created by a New Zealand studio. That game is really cool, and it was really fun to actually get into, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So it's actually a really, really cool game to get into, but immediately, like, it was just like, oh my god, what am I getting into? You know, like, until you cross that bridge, I think that with accessibility, like, I wonder, you know, I feel like it's more about accessibility to who. And I think that a lot of card games, wow, Yu-Gi-Oh, I mean, we might not even talk about Yu-Gi-Oh. That's like a whole thing. I feel like with card games, when I think about accessibility for card games, or what I've been thinking about is like, how do we bring in people that aren't card gamers, that don't play card games? But, you know, I feel like it's an entire genre of games that people are missing out on. So I sort of feel this this heavy need for the balance around the accessibility, to try and go, well, how can we make something that can pull people in as quickly and as best as possible. And so I guess that's what made me be drawn to this idea around DE and what I'm currently toying with, like this really big text in the description boxes, and keeping the abilities to be these short, punchy abilities that you can get your head around, you can sort of play into, but like still having the depth of like strategies and sort of deck building and all these elements. And I think like, yeah, I wonder if there's a psychology to just seeing a wall of text. Like, what does that mean to a person?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And us tapping into this, like, we want to try to make card games that are accessible and doesn't take too long to learn is a strength of our games, and we should try to do that as much as we can. I remember showing Spicy Showdown to my wife a couple months, maybe even a year ago, and kind of like being proud of like, hey, here's the game that I've been working on, and her taking a look at the cards, and she was like, oh, I can't play card games like this. And keep in mind, this is like when I still had the old Chili Dragon with like three lines of words and things like that. And so some people are just straight up like not card gamers, and they're not interested in card games like this. But over time, I actually showed the game to her in this current state, and she still actually likes playing the game, even though it's a little bit more complex than what she personally is used to playing, like Uno and card games like that, where cards don't have effects, right? It's more of just like you're using the cards as like a part of the game's pieces.
Yeah.
But she much rather than the abilities of the cards, she was actually kind of more confused about around the rule, like the game systems, like phases, and like this card attacks this other card and things like that. So as long as you're clear about what you say in your cards, I personally have learned that it's okay to make your cards have a little bit more words.
Okay.
Yeah, and most people who pick up card games, your audience may already be expecting a little bit more complex gameplay, because ultimately, card games are all about cards and what each card can do, rather than we're not a video game where like things can move on its own and we can like program things to kind of so that people don't have to necessarily do everything manually. So your cards do need some amount of depth. I learned like you need to have enough depth in each card so that people can really attach themselves into each card and feel like they could connect to them, and they could pick up like a card and be like, yeah, I like this one because it does this, or it needs to be very memorable when they like look at a card and have a reason to like it so much. A lot of the cards that are like Vaiki, I don't know how to pronounce this card's name, I'm sorry, but this just says you may play exhausted cards from reserve. Maybe that's like a pretty powerful ability in the context of this game, but I think a card like Conflicts, personally for me, would feel more personally, like I might feel more attached to the design of Conflux and like what it can do. It might feel more epic. Yeah, I'm not saying there are probably not cards like this in the game too, but I'm talking about the simplicity versus like complexity of a card. As a player, I think I would probably be more excited to play Conflux rather than a card that has just one line of text. But your game needs to have a good mix of both, otherwise everything will feel too simple or everything will feel too complex.
Yeah,
so, yeah, that's really interesting.
Striking the balance is like tricky. I mean, how I'm about to write a whole essay onto my card description at this point, like just rip up the entire story. But no, I think I definitely agree. I like the sentiment of like who's gonna pick up your card. I think is a great like thing to ask, like when you're designing these things, right? Like who's gonna pick up your card is a great one, because you go like then you know what you're like, who you're writing it for.
Audiences,
type of thing, right?
yeah,
Audience is like a big one. But I like what you're saying around attachment. I would say, like, do you feel I like your methodology here. Step one is fun. And I think that's always like a great rule set to start with when designing. It's like just start with fun, because you can't go wrong if you're starting with fun, and then kind of go into the balance of accessibility and other such things. It's like, the Draco card might read really well. You pay 2, you heal 2 or take 2 damage to draw 2, and it's straightforward. But maybe this is not so fun for people. They're like, trading resource for health, kind of neutral, not as fun, not as cool. But maybe playing into something like Jelly Shroom, it's like, oh, I'm gonna overheal and combo and trash my entire deck to do this crazy thing. Like there might be some more involvement there. Like even though it's more complex, you're as a player, you might be able to get behind that ability more, because it's like it's really you crafting a story of what you're doing in this game. You're like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna do this thing. I kind of, when I look at you explaining Conflux and talking about this concept of attaching behind the ability, I really feel like an analogy that sticks out for me is like these card abilities. It's almost like you're getting your players to become storytellers, and through their effects, they're storytelling this game and what's happening, the conflicts and the ups and downs and everything. So what are these like story beats you're gonna give players? If someone's saying, I had this game, I had this engage that I played with someone, and it was like 6 turns long, what, like within those 6 turns, like what are the story beats?
Right.
because I feel like
And
when
I
I explain my experience with a game, you know, I'm like really storytelling through like what happened, and I'm like, oh, they did this and this happened, and oh my god, like,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, going back to what is fun, I actually asked this players when after a playtest, new players, I asked them, hey, so what is the fun factor of Spicy Showdown when you played it? And they said, oh, I find it fun when I set out to do this challenge. Each game there's like a different challenge that they have to overcome, and like they have the strategy in their mind when they see these cards in their hands, and they see that their strategy worked. That's the fun part of the game. So I was like, wow, that's actually a really good kind of like interesting point to start off and start designing cards around that. So I have these dining chilies, for example, this Count Caligula. This is a relatively new design here, where dining effects happen at the end of the game. So usually I can use their design to kind of illustrate this like idea in the player's mind as like, since this is going to happen at the end of the game, you want to try to build around it. This is your win condition, or you at least know, and you and your opponent know that this is going to happen. So try to work with this, and that's the idea. So people will usually, if you see the design for Count Caligula, it says, when dining, you may trash 3 chilies from your hand. He's counting up to 3 to give this chili plus 5 heat. So you want to make sure that you have at least 3 chilies if you want to use this ability. So what are other ways people can do that? So people start churning out ideas in their hand. Oh, okay. I want to make sure that I have enough cards in my hand. So I'm going to draw cards to ensure that this will work. And your opponents could also see this and be like, oh, I want to make sure he doesn't have cards in his hand. So maybe I can make him discard things and things like that, right? Additionally, I think when cards have a lot of flavor in their ability itself, it's also really strong because people will like attach themselves to the cards that way, and that's sometimes fun for them. Not necessarily through strategy, but for example, if you look at this chili shoot, it's just a parachute, but you could usually wear a parachute and it will save you. So I try to design an ability that says you can stack this under a chili, which means that you're kind of equipping it to like last minute if you like that chili to be a little bit hotter. And not every time like my abilities will translate well into like flavor and gameplay, but sometimes they do, and that's when it really clicks and it helps players learn the cards without having to necessarily like read it over again. For example, Jesus here is a special card. It says when one of your chilies would be trashed, you may choose to trash this chili instead. So he sacrifices himself for your other chilies. And once people understand that like narrative theme of the flavor, like, oh, this chili sacrifices himself whenever one of my chilies would be trashed, next time they draw Jesus, they don't really necessarily have to read the abilities again to understand it, because they could reference what they know about Jesus in real life to be like, oh, right, remember, that's the chili that sacrifices himself, and they will kind of like remember that, right? Which is why I think it's very important and beneficial to the players to be able to connect that like 2 dots together, and that helps them a lot in learning the cards for your game. Same thing with this chili puppet here. When this is prepped, you could swap any 2 grilling chilies on any grills with each other. So this basically like controls you and your opponent's chilies in a way, which is what a chili puppet would do, sort of a thing. Just trying to like tie in and design abilities that would like eventually help the players remember what the card does. And that way, maybe that's like another way you could kind of mitigate having too many words on your cards is, just through intuitiveness in the card's ability. Same thing with like the Conflux card up here. When you look at this art next time, like first time you're going to have to read this ability. Search your library for a white card, a blue card, black card, red card, a green card, reveal those cards and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. But like once you read that, next time you don't have to read that over and over again. You could just literally look at this giant hand drawing the 5 mana and then you could just like do the action. Whereas I think Endemon, I would have to read this every single time, because this just is like a generic like cool creature with like this big weapon. It doesn't really tell me anything about what this guy would specifically do. And I think this is kind of like a problem with like Yu-Gi-Oh cards as an outsider, because Conflux, I can look at it and see the 5 colors and I understand what it's trying to do. But this is just like, I have to just remember, and then I have to read all of this and just try to remember what it does. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's something that games should try to do more, modern TCGs, especially if they're trying to be more accessible to their players, and teach them how to play the game.
That's a pretty good premise. Like I like sort of the idea of trying to base it all into one learnable, referenceable sort of card. You bake in all the themes, like make it pretty intuitive. Yeah, I think this is pretty good sort of stepping stone to getting people to just naturally and intuitively learn and retain the knowledge of your games. I think that's pretty good. Awesome. Yeah,
but the downside is that it's so challenging, because sometimes you'll have a piece of artwork, like this Count Chilacula has probably been reworked over 10 times, and at first I'm like, how do I make a vampire in my card game? Okay, he's gonna suck on someone else's blood and then he gets heat, and it may take a long time to kind of like land on something that feels really good, both resonating like thematically, but also the ability has to be fun. So that's the downside of like challenging card design, but that could also be like the fun part of the design, right? It's like us as designers, we try to make something that is both fun and thematically resonant and is easy to learn. It is not an easy task to do.
Oh no, definitely not.
No. Yeah, absolutely. I think I have seen cards in Divine Engage where you have really strong, like narratively themed cards that feel like super like intuitive. I would look at the card's art, I'd be like, oh yeah, this, and the name of the card also tells me like what this card does. And then like the ability like helps tell the story. And then when the players like play that card, it's immediately memorable, and they're like, yeah, this is my card, you know, I put this into my deck and I'm gonna build like a strategy around it. I think just that's like a super cool way to design cards and play the game.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a big part of the design that I did for DE is that thing of like all the strategy really goes into the deck building. And then, yeah, it sort of like just comes to a foot when you start playing the game. And you go, cool, can I like run out the strategy? Am I going to build in a second one just in case this one doesn't kind of go right, goes a bit pear-shaped? But yeah, I mean, it is a real challenge, I would say, to cohesively design like this. Like it's a really cool, the amount of different ways that you can design. I'd like to really hear, like, if anyone is in the comments jamming out these episodes, if you have your own kind of approach, like, do you try to design card games or your own games, could be even video games, or your own things cohesively? Are you trying to like really link it together? Do you have another method? Would love to hear like other people's stories and other people's ways of designing too. I think that's a super cool sort of way. I like to really head in like the lore side. Like the flavor text is really fun for me because I get to expand the lore a little bit, head it into this bucket. Something that I did for like the ability designs is with all of the cards in DE, they'll have these factions, and so part of what I'm trying to do here is relate the ability to the faction type. So if you're building and deck building, you'll pick a divine, and then this divine will tell you what factions you can build with. And because each faction has a fundamental, I guess, like gimmick or thing that it's focused on, once you learn what that is, you can sort of look at a divine and understand the layers that you're going to build with. So for power, the sort of mask faction here, it's all based around really strong aggro and the gimmick of exiling your cards, which is like permanently destroying them. So if you're building into a faction like this, then it's kind of this really aggressive power that destroys a lot of things. And balance is all about control and healing. So if you want to build lots of heal cards and have that like heal gimmick, healing and drawing cards, sort of having control, gaining that resource, that's what you build into. And progress is all about discarding triggers. So you're sort of like playing cards, and it's very combo heavy. So these are the three layers that I sort of baked in. So when I chose to do these ability designs, I guess part of where the ability itself lands is also on the faction as well. So for some of the abilities, it might not be the most cohesive to the character. Like maybe for Draco's ability, I needed something slightly more courageous, potentially. But I sort of tried to bake it in a little bit, like, can you take a punch, take 2 damage, draw 2. Sort of look at the positives, but the healing is more into the faction itself. Because you look at Draco and you go, what does he heal? But that goes into the actual faction, so the faction takes a bit of the weight of the relatability of the sort of thing itself.
And I think that's really interesting, because I didn't actually consider that the factions themselves have these identities as exiling, or they have a core gameplay loop that they're trying to go for, and your cards do have to fit into factions. My game Spicy Showdown, there is no deck building and there is no factions for people to try to like play into. So every card had that like extra room to be like expressive in what they do, and they were like, oh yeah, I could just design whatever I felt to try to like fit the theme. But your game also needs to have this like cohesiveness where cards work together, and specifically because they all go back to the divines and the divines' abilities and what they're trying to accomplish. So that's like an extra added layer of like challenge for you, is like how do you make Draco feel courageous and do his like own unique thing while serving the ultimate goal, which is like what Locke does. I think you're very close to it. I do see the resemblance there. Like take 2 damage to draw 2 is something that I see from Draco as like, oh yeah, can you take a punch? And sometimes that's what the flavor text kind of helps you bridge that gap between the ability text and the art. Like you can kind of say, you know what, don't worry, I could take it, or something like that. That helps like feel like, oh, I all of a sudden understand what this card's ability means now. And then the art, it kind of helps tie them together and tell the story. Yeah. But I don't know. I think for Effie here, Effie Oranwind, when this is discarded, usually in my previous games, I think when this is discarded, it's usually used on a card like something that wants to be discarded, like a zombie or like a mechanical thing. I think I usually have it on like something that wants to be discarded, as in like a character, like a spider bot or something like that, that it's like, oh yeah, I don't mind being discarded. But usually like characters or like humans are usually the ones doing the discarding, and because people are more likely to be attached to that character and they want to see them on the board more, and all kinds of like different reasons. Or like usually the foods and like ingredients or objects are the ones that wants to get discarded, whereas people are like the main characters. So let me see the flavor text here. A field of glowshrooms, one stew to heal the nation, thanks to the courage of everyone. Yeah, so I think if like the mushroom was, for example, the one getting discarded, and then Effie was the person who discards things, I think that would be like a great way to tell a story as like someone is discarding
Yeah.
the mushrooms and the mushrooms are healing you.
I mean, interestingly, this card used to be the mushroom itself.
Yeah.
And then I went sort of into the idea of like all the cards being followers.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, like this is an interesting sort of topical thing of like if does your abilities like match the card? How much consideration are you putting into it? Because this ability was basically the lingering ability from the glow shrooms themselves. It wasn't really written for Effie as a character, versus Draco's one like did have that layer of thought, which is it is really interesting. But I like what you're saying there around the perception. So it's like is their character humanoid and stuff, like maybe there's more attachment here. And yeah, I like this theme that's being brought up here of attachment. Like I feel like with card games, card games are like half artwork collectibles and like half gameplay, I feel like. And so the word attachment in terms of design and how you're designing the UI, how you're designing the abilities, like I feel like it's a really cool theme and a thing to consider as a designer, because you're ultimately creating something that someone's going to collect and
Yes.
take care of and hold on to. So this considering the attachment is like a really cool, I think that's a really cool premise to come out of that convo. I think that's cool. Something this
I
is
love
relating
Vena's
to
design.
Yeah, oh man, Zilurus like cooked on the on the artwork. He did so good. This like Birds of Paradise feel. This was the sort of thing you mentioned around, does it relate to the divine a little bit? So for Vena's passive, when you heal, you gain these kind of light runes, and so that kind of hits into and then their quest is to draw all of your cards. So Draco is kind of like pretty tied into this.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and they're part of the balance faction. Makes sense.
Yeah. So that was sort of my thoughts. Also designing, like linking into divines.
I really like that. First of all, the thing that strikes me first and foremost is the art right away. And that's like the case for 99% of cards. Is usually you'll look at the card's art and be like, that looks cool. Or someone will find the reason to be like, I like birds, that's why I'm gonna main Vena. Or I like healing, that's why I'm gonna main Vena. But always, first and foremost is the art. So art will usually draw people's attention to look at the card and then look at the rest of the ability. And then us as designers, our job is to now link whatever the art says with the ability and make the player like think like, is this worth it? Do I like this card? Do I want to have that attachment towards this card and find a reason to either build around it, collect it, try to play it and win with it, versus like Lock, another card that also looks really cool. Like in a weird, like strange way, we're trying to convince players that they should like this card over other cards, because it will appeal to them, their play styles, their personality, or just what kind of things keep them interested to keep playing the game. And sometimes that could be like the ability is really cool. It's really satisfying to see this big payout of like deal 6 and then transcend into this magnificent bird. Or sometimes it's just like, I like dragons, I like little cute guys like the Draco here, and I'm just gonna play him because he's cute. There's like a surprisingly good amount of different people in card games, and the reason why they draft certain cards. And maybe you'll have a player, I'm sure you're gonna have a player who just drafts like all the little cute guys, and then
the worst deck in that entire
game. And then the deck doesn't make any sense, but they just love collecting cute little guys and with like Mora, and then you just have this big like zoo
Zoomer deck. Oh my gosh, it's already starting. It's already starting.
Yeah, and then in your game also this just is fantastic because you can still win. You don't have to have necessarily like the best deck building game. Sometimes you just need to be really good at rock paper scissors, and I think that's the beauty of it all. So yeah, I think that's awesome. I also made this like stray chili cat card down here.
And I love it. It's one of my
really
favorite
love
chilies.
this one.
Unironically.
It's super tiny. It's one heat, and all it does is just like comes out and then like stacks under one of your chilies. But people love this idea of like just like a tiny cat that like just helps you at the end of the game, and so much so that they want this to be the mascot of the game, and they want plushies of it, for just the fact that it's cute and it does something kind of like
petition the plushie stray chili cat. Guys, get this video to 1 million likes, and Dan has to make a chili cat plushie.
Oh man, if this video gets 1 million likes, I will make a chili
that's crazy
chili cat plushie. You heard it here, folks.
Okay. Yeah, just gonna go through my phone book list of 1 million people real quick to get this made. Yeah. Unironically, this ability is so epic. It is so overpowered. I like it.
It actually is the deciding factor.
It's so strong. Like, it's so strong. When you play Spicy Showdown, come into the community sometimes. Check out the description below if you guys want to check out the tavern, cool place on the internet you can hang out, and the specific Spicy Showdown Discord. If you want to come and play test, come and have some games. I'd love to just demolish you guys in the showdown with my cats and seedlings and other fun things. But no, there's a lot of chilies to explore, which is great.
Yes. Yeah, I'm really excited. I can't wait to host more playtests. I'm gonna have another one this morning probably, and I think the base set is coming together really cool. We probably should talk about at some point. I don't know if we can have enough time to talk about it this episode, but at some point, like, what does the end look like? Do we even know what the top of the mountain looks like as we're climbing it?
Oh man.
And that's kind of like the joke. I saw that you had this announcement for the base set's gonna be done by the end of this month, and I was like, oh boy.
Oh boy.
I believe in you. I believe that you could do it. I said the same thing to my wife multiple times when I was like, I'm gonna have the base set done, and it's still been like 4 months since then. I'm still tweaking the cards, and I am having a bit of trouble trying to define where the end truly is. And I don't know if there ever is an end to card game design, or like when do you call it done. But I could at least sense that I'm getting closer and closer. You know, I'm at like 97, 98% every time I work on it. And the next time I work on it, maybe it'll be like 98.1. So maybe I will never get to that 100, but I will get as close to it as possible. And then maybe there's just this bittersweet feeling of like, maybe you just have to be okay with never truly being satisfied with your design at the end of it all, you know?
Oh man. Ooh. I think that's some brewing thoughts, some brewing feelings. We can tackle it into I think like the next episode, let's try and find some peaks on these mountains, you know, we can't climb forever. I think I'll have some more news around the base set, where it's going. We'll have some more project updates. Maybe even into next time we can show a little bit of gameplay. So if you're around, we could see a little bit more from the actual games themselves. But I think the talks around the UI design, like all the considerations, how immersive are you being with the cards, what stories are you telling, how do we fit the text, what's the direction of the players. We've kind of head into a lot of territory in cards, and again, I'd love to hear people's design ideas, thoughts, what challenges you guys have run into, and maybe even some direct feedback of what you guys kind of think. Are you one for complex, like Yu-Gi-Oh level abilities? You know, are you all for that? Are you more of the like, oh man, give me the like 2-line, real simple abilities? I'd love to hear where people land. Is it somewhere in the middle? Do we have like an extreme skew? We will
If
have to see.
if every card in your game is not Endemon, like what are you doing as a designer? You know, why can't you just put in more lines of text
It's kind
in the
of out
cards?
there. Like, I have to read like an entire novel to draw a card. It's
Oh my god, it does feel like that here. What is this?
yeah, that's quite a lot. But I mean, shout out to like whoever was able to write all of this out and balance it at the same time. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, man, maybe after this recording, I'm gonna actually pause it to just kind of like understand what this does, and did it really have to be this long?
Yeah, guys, if you've been reading
gonna
the
take a look.
Indiemon's effect this entire episode, tell us how far in you
We
got.
don't blame you.
Did you get halfway? Like,
That's nuts.
yo.
Wow.
No, I mean, UI can go on forever in terms of card games, but I think that it's going in a good direction. I feel like this episode's been great. Talked about some great things. I'm going to reflect a little bit into the project. Go prep to make another ascent with some progress. And yeah, we'll be showing off some more next week. So thank you guys so much for checking out DevUp, this new episode. We'll be back next time to talk about reaching peaks in our game projects. Maybe we'll do a little play demo. And we'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah, catch you guys next time.
Bye.